You were trained to see intelligence as a compliment, a badge, something evenly distributed, politely measured, and morally neutral. That lie keeps you docile. Intelligence is not a virtue. It is a sorting mechanism, a blade, a hierarchy that does not care how you feel about it. The first correction is brutal. Intellect is not about how smart you are, it is about how clearly you see relative position. Most men mistake intelligence for education, vocabulary, or quick opinions. Those are decorations. Real intellect is spatial awareness inside human systems. Who moves first? Who waits? Who reacts? Who feeds? Machiavelli never asked whether a man was intelligent. He asked whether a man understood men. That distinction alone separates rulers from casualties. You can memorize philosophy and still be blind. You can score high on tests and still be predictable. And predictability is weakness. The world does not reward intelligence equally. It weaponizes it asymmetrically. A man 1 degree above you does not need to overpower you. He only needs to see you before you see him. He anticipates your moral reflexes, your need to be liked, your urge to explain yourself. While you debate fairness, he positions. While you seek clarity, he secures advantage. Ranking already exists. You are not being invited into it, you are already inside it. The only question is whether you are conscious of your placement or anesthetized by comforting myths. Equality is one of those myths. Another is potential. Potential is what men talk about while others extract value from them in real time. This chapter forces a lens shift. Intelligence is not a scale from dumb to smart. It is a ladder of perception and restraint. Lower degrees speak more than they listen. They reveal. They signal. They confuse honesty with strength. Higher degrees conserve information. They delay reactions. They let others expose themselves. The dangerous part is not that higher intellect exists. The dangerous part is that it recognizes lower intellect instantly. Speech patterns, emotional leakage, moral urgency, the need to correct others, the need to be seen as good. These are tells. To the untrained eye, they look like personality. To the trained eye, they are entry points. You have been conditioned to believe intelligence makes you safe. It does the opposite. Partial awareness without ranking makes you exploitable. You see enough to feel superior, but not enough to see the trap closing. This is the most common position. Men who think they are observers, when they are resources, understand this clearly. No system selects for intelligence alone. It selects for useful intelligence. Intelligence that serves power survives. Intelligence that serves ego gets consumed. History is not written by the smartest men in the room, but by the men who understood which intelligence mattered when. This lens shift is surgical. Stop asking, "How smart am I?" Start asking, "Who sees more than I do right now?" Stop asking, "Is this fair?" Start asking, "Who benefits from my belief that it should be?" Every environment, workplace, family, politics, relationships runs on this invisible ranking. You don't escape hierarchy by denying it. You only guarantee your position at the bottom half. Seeing the ladder does not make you cruel. It makes you accurate. And accuracy is the first requirement for sovereignty. Until you adopt this lens, every chapter after this is useless. Strategy without ranking is fantasy. Awareness without placement is arrogance. The hierarchy does not announce itself. It reveals itself only to men disciplined enough to look without flinching. That discipline begins now. Intellect becomes power at the moment it stops expressing itself and starts controlling outcomes. This is where most men fail. They believe intelligence proves itself by speaking, arguing, explaining, or correcting. That belief exposes them. Power does not require demonstration. It requires alignment between perception, timing, and restraint. The core mechanism is simple and unforgiving. The man who sees second-order consequences governs. The man trapped in first-order reactions. You react to what is said. He reacts to what your reaction will enable. You focus on truth. He focuses on leverage. You seek to be right. He seeks to be effective. This is not about IQ. It is about cognitive distance. The ability to step back from emotion, identity, and moral impulse long enough to map the board. Lower degrees experience thoughts as urges. Higher degrees experience thoughts as tools. One feels compelled to respond. The other chooses when silence extracts more value. Every social system runs on pressure points. Fear of exclusion. Desire for approval. Need for certainty. The intellectually powerful identify which pressure governs you, then apply it lightly. They do not dominate loudly. They let you volunteer compliance while believing it was your idea. Notice the inversion. The more openly intelligent a man tries to appear, the less power he holds. He leaks intent. He shows his hand. He seeks validation for his intellect, which means he needs an audience. Needing an audience places you beneath the man who can wait. Machiavellian intellect is cold because warmth blurs perception. Emotion collapses time. It forces immediacy. The higher the degree, the longer the time horizon. Short-term moral wins are traded for long-term positional dominance. This is why naive intelligence often loses to ruthless average minds. They play different games. Another mechanism, selective blindness. Higher intellect does not process everything. It filters. It ignores noise. It lets others exhaust themselves proving points that don't matter. While you argue content, he studies structure. While you chase clarity, he consolidates ambiguity in his favor. Most men believe intelligence is about solving problems. Power-oriented intellect is about deciding which problems never need to be solved. Many conflicts are traps designed to drain attention and expose alignment. Refusing to engage is not ignorance. It is superiority. Language itself becomes a weapon at higher degrees. Not through complexity, but through precision and omission. Short statements. Delayed responses. Questions that force others to reveal position. Silence that invites projection. The less you say, the more others supply, and in doing so, they map themselves for you. This is why morality is dangerous in the hands of the unaware. Moral urgency accelerates action. It pressures you to speak, to condemn, to defend. Higher intellect uses morality as camouflage or bait, never as a compass. Good and evil are narratives. Outcomes are real. Understand the mechanism fully. Intellectual power is not dominance of thought, but dominance of flow. Who speaks when? Who moves first? Who commits publicly? Who stays unreadable? Once you see this, you will recognize how often you have been maneuvered without force. Men do not lose power because they are stupid. They lose it because they are transparent. They reveal preferences, fears, loyalties, and limits freely, believing honesty is strength. To the higher degree, honesty without strategy is generosity to predators. This chapter strips another illusion. That intelligence protects you automatically. It does not. Only disciplined, situational, restrained intellect converts into control. The rest is decoration useful to others, not to you. Once you grasp this mechanism, the next step is unavoidable: classification. You must see how different degrees behave, signal, and self-destruct. Without archetypes, you will misidentify threats and overestimate allies. The hierarchy is not abstract. It expresses itself through behavior, speech, timing, risk tolerance. The 9 degrees of intellect are not measured by intelligence tests, but by how a man relates to power, information, and consequence. You will recognize these degrees immediately because you have served under them, competed with them, or been consumed by them. The lowest degrees are not stupid. They are unguarded. Degree 1 lives entirely in impulse. Emotion is reality. Offense is personal. Loyalty is unconditional. These men are loud, reactive, and easily mobilized. They are useful as shock troops and scapegoats. They feel everything and understand nothing. Degree 2 believes in rules. He trusts systems, titles, and stated intentions. He thinks compliance earns protection. He confuses structure with fairness. Institutions feed on him because he never suspects extraction. Degree 3 has intelligence but no restraint. He argues, he corrects. He wants recognition for being right. This is the most talkative degree and the most exploitable. His ego makes him predictable. Degree 4 begins to notice patterns but moralizes them. He senses manipulation yet explains it away to preserve identity. He calls predators toxic instead of adapting. Awareness without adjustment traps him in frustration. These 4 degrees supply energy upward. They are not villains. They are resources. The middle degrees understand the game but still participate openly. Degree 5 learns strategic behavior and deploys it selectively. He withholds more than he reveals. However, he still seeks validation from higher ranks and fears isolation. He plays to win, but within limits. Degree 6 operates quietly. He studies people more than ideas. He rarely commits early. He allows others to speak themselves into cages. He is dangerous to the unaware but still constrained by environment. Then come the upper degrees, the ones most men never meet directly, only feel the effects of. Degree 7 shapes narratives. He does not argue positions. He defines the frame. Others debate inside rules he designed. He understands morale, belief, and fear as levers. Degree 8 sees systems as living organisms. He anticipates reactions before actions occur. He sacrifices pawns, including himself temporarily, to secure irreversible advantage. Morality is a costume he wears or discards as needed. Degree 9 is nearly invisible. He avoids spotlight and ideology. He intervenes rarely, but decisively. His power comes from optionality, multiple exits, alliances, and identities. You do not know he exists until outcomes align. Too cleanly to be accidental. Here is the destabilizing truth. Higher degrees do not announce themselves. They let lower degrees label them incorrectly boring, passive, lucky, or irrelevant. Misclassification is protection. Most men occupy degrees 3 to 4 and believe they are higher because they can articulate the problem. Articulation is not rank. Impact is. The latter is not climbed by self-identification, but by recognition from above and extraction from below. Notice the brutal symmetry. Each higher degree feeds on the predictable behavior of the one beneath it. Emotion feeds structure. Structure feeds ego. Ego feeds awareness. Awareness feeds strategy. Strategy feeds narrative. Narrative feeds systems. Systems feed invisibility. You cannot choose your degree by desire. You can only adjust behavior to stop signaling lower rank. The first move is not ascent, it is containment. Stop broadcasting. Stop reacting. Stop proving. Now the threat deepens. Because once you see these degrees, you must accept something darker. Higher intellect does not merely coexist with lower intellect. It uses it by design. History makes this unavoidable. Once you understand the hierarchy, the illusion that power is accidental collapses. Higher degrees do not rise because they are lucky or benevolent. They rise because they understand extraction, how to convert human behavior into fuel. This is not conspiracy. It is structure. And it repeats across history with mechanical precision. The primary food source is emotion. Fear, hope, outrage, belonging. Lower degrees experience these as internal states. Higher degrees experience them as levers. They do not argue with emotion. They provoke it, then redirect it. A population in emotional motion cannot see who set it moving. History is not driven by ideas. Ideas are packaging. What moves history is coordinated belief under pressure. Wars, revolutions, moral panics, none begin with logic. They begin with narratives that activate identity. Higher intellect designs the narrative. Lower intellect enforces it, believing it is acting freely. This is the first feeding pattern, moral outsourcing. Higher degrees never dirty their hands. They provide justification. Others provide action. When consequences arrive, blame falls downward. The architects remain clean, often praised for restraint. The second feeding pattern is complexity laundering. Systems are made deliberately opaque. Rules multiply. Language becomes abstract. Lower degrees assume complexity equals necessity. Higher degrees know complexity hides control. The man who understands the system never needs to explain it, only operate it. Notice how often intelligence is allowed to exist only when it is harmless. You may critique surface behavior, but never the structure. You may debate policy, but never incentives. This boundary is enforced not with violence, but with social cost. Shame is cheaper than force. Another feeding mechanism is time asymmetry. Higher degrees think in decades. Lower degrees are trapped in weeks and headlines. Short-term suffering is exchanged for long-term dominance. The unaware call this cruelty. The strategist calls it inevitability. Human nature makes this stable. Most men prefer comfort to sovereignty. They trade autonomy for certainty. Higher intellect simply organizes this preference efficiently. It does not create weakness. It harvests it. Even rebellion is absorbed. Controlled opposition vents pressure without altering structure. The angriest voices are often the safest. They reveal themselves early and exhaust quickly. Silence is more threatening than outrage. Machiavelli understood this coldly. It is better to be feared than loved, but safest to be misunderstood. Higher degrees feed best when they are underestimated. Visibility invites resistance. Ambiguity invites projection, and projection keeps others busy fighting phantoms. This is why good intentions are irrelevant. You may believe you are acting morally, but morality without power is just labor for someone else's strategy. The system does not care what you believe. It only registers what you reinforce. The deepest threat is not that higher intellect exploits. It is that it must. Once a man sees how systems function, he cannot unsee it. He either feeds or he is fed upon. Neutrality does not exist at scale. By now, one thing should be clear. Staying where you are is not safe. Awareness alone has already made you a liability to someone above and a resource to someone below. Stagnation is exposure. The only viable response is strategic adjustment, not rebellion. Not withdrawal, but recalibration of behavior. You must learn how to move without advertising, adapt without signaling, and survive without moral theatrics. That begins next. Once you see the hierarchy, you are no longer innocent. But you are not powerful yet either. This middle state is the most dangerous position a man can occupy. You know enough to threaten structure, but not enough to defend yourself openly. The adjustment required here is not aggression, it is discipline. The first correction is behavioral silence. Stop announcing conclusions. Stop explaining your reasoning. Explanation is exposure. Every justification reveals your values, limits, and triggers. Higher degrees do not need your secrets handed to them. They wait for you to donate them. Silence is not passivity. It is reconnaissance. When you speak less, others fill the vacuum. They reveal priorities, alliances, fears. Most men cannot tolerate silence. They rush to relieve it. Let them. Information asymmetry begins here. The second adjustment is delayed reaction. Lower degrees react instantly because emotion demands release. Higher degrees delay because time clarifies leverage. When you respond slowly, you change the frame. Others adjust to you. Urgency collapses power. Calm stretches it. Next, abandon moral signaling. Public virtue is a liability. It locks you into predictable responses and invites exploitation. This does not mean becoming immoral. It means becoming unreadable. Your ethics should guide your private decisions, not advertise your public behavior. Another shift is selective competence. Do not excel everywhere. Visibility attracts control. Be competent enough to be useful, not exceptional enough to be targeted. Many men fail here. They try to prove worth upward and become indispensable in the wrong way. Indispensability without leverage is captivity. Observe how higher degrees handle conflict. They rarely confront directly. They reposition. They change incentives. They let others fight battles they designed. Learn this. Never oppose a system head-on unless you already control an exit. Language must also be corrected. Replace declarations with questions. Replace certainty with calibrated ambiguity. Statements close doors. Questions open traps. Ambiguity forces others to project intent, and projection exposes alignment. Understand this clearly. You are not trying to dominate yet. You are trying to stop bleeding. Most men lose power unconsciously through overcommitment, emotional loyalty, and premature honesty. Your first win is neutrality. Your second is OPTIONALIT. Why? Begin building exits. Social, professional, psychological. The man with one path is governable. The man with options is dangerous. Options do not require immediate use, only quiet construction. Finally, accept the hardest adjustment. You must let go of being understood. Lower degrees crave recognition. Higher degrees accept misinterpretation as camouflage. If people think you are passive, boring, or disengaged, you are safer than if they think you are sharp. This chapter does not elevate you. It stabilizes you. It keeps you from being harvested while you reconfigure internally. The next step is more violent, not outwardly, but psychologically. Because the identity that brought you this far cannot take you further. It must be dismantled. At a certain point, strategy alone fails. Tactics collapse under the weight of identity. You can practice silence, restraint, and delayed reaction, but if your self-image still depends on being seen as intelligent, moral, or competent, you will betray yourself under pressure. This is where most men stall permanently. An identity is a contract. It dictates how you must behave to remain yourself. That is why it is exploitable. The moment someone knows who you think you are, they know how to force your hand. Pride is not confidence. It is predictability with emotion attached. The old identity you must kill is the performative intellect. The man who believes his worth comes from insight, explanation, or correctness. This identity demands expression. It cannot tolerate silence without anxiety. Under threat, it leaks. Identity death is not metaphorical. It feels like loss. You will feel smaller, less visible, less validated. That is the cost. Sovereignty is lonely because it removes the audience that once confirmed you existed. Machiavellian. Replacement identity is colder and narrower, the positioned observer. This identity does not ask, "Who am I?" It asks, "Where am I placed and what does this position allow?" Selfhood becomes functional, not expressive. Notice the inversion. Lower degrees build identity from beliefs. Higher degrees build identity from constraints. What can I say? What must I not say? What does silence buy me here? Identity becomes a moving shell, not a fixed core. This is why higher intellect appears empty to outsiders. There is no stable personality to latch onto, no strong opinions to provoke, no visible outrage to manipulate. Emptiness is not absence, it is defensive depth. You will be tempted to retain fragments of the old self, to show intelligence selectively, to prove you still have it. This temptation is the final trap. Every display resets the hierarchy in the observer's mind. Every reveal collapses ambiguity. Replacement requires internal reprogramming. You must stop measuring yourself by expression and start measuring by outcome. Did this interaction increase options? Did it reduce exposure? Did it preserve leverage? Feelings are irrelevant. Results are real. Another identity must die with the first. The belief that being good protects you. It does not. Being accurate does. Goodness without power is decoration on someone else's structure. Higher degrees may wear morality, but they are not governed by it. This is not nihilism. It is precision. You can still act ethically, but quietly, indirectly, and without expectation of reward. Ethics become internal discipline, not external theater. Once this identity replacement stabilizes, something unsettling happens. You stop needing to be right. You stop needing to be liked. You stop needing closure. These needs were anchors. Without them, movement becomes possible. You are no longer trying to climb visibly. You are trying to be unplaceable. Men above you cannot categorize you easily. Men below you cannot use you emotionally. This is the threshold. What remains is a final warning. Because even now, many will hesitate. They will intellectualize, delay, or retreat into theory. The hierarchy punishes hesitation ruthlessly. The sorting completes itself at the end. There is no neutral ending. Systems do not tolerate ambiguity forever. They sort. Slowly if unchallenged, violently if resisted. What you have seen across these chapters is not a philosophy, it is a diagnostic. And every diagnostic ends with a result, whether you read it or not. Most men stop here and feel informed. That is the final failure. Insight without repositioning is just another form of entertainment. The hierarchy allows this. It feeds on men who understand just enough to feel superior, but not enough to move differently. These men become chronic commentators, useful noise. The final sorting is simple. Either you locate yourself accurately, or others do it for you. And when others place you, it is never in your favor. You will be assigned a role that matches your most exploitable trait, your loyalty, your competence, your morality, or your hunger to be seen. Higher degrees do not fear intelligence below them. They fear misalignment. A man who knows where he stands and acts accordingly disrupts extraction. He consumes less, reacts slower, and refuses scripts designed for his rank. This forces recalibration above him, which is costly. This is why the system pressures you to choose comfort, to stay legible, to keep performing the identity it already understands. The moment you break pattern, friction appears. Confusion, suspicion, subtle exclusion. These are signals you are shifting straight at. Do not dramatize this. Dramatic exits invite correction. The elite move quietly. They shrink their footprint before they expand their reach. They reduce dependencies before they test power. They do not announce awakening, they let outcomes speak. The warning is final because time is not neutral. While you hesitate, others adjust around you. While you moralize, others position. While you debate whether this is too cold, colder men are deciding where you fit. Machiavelli's insight was never about cruelty. It was about clarity. Men suffer not because the world is harsh, but because they misread it and act as if it were gentle. Nature does not reward intentions. It rewards alignment with reality. If you leave this unchanged, still expressive, still reactive, still seeking recognition, you have chosen. The hierarchy will continue to use you efficiently. You will feel busy, engaged, and principled while remaining stationary. If you adjust quietly, incrementally, without witnesses, you will feel smaller at first, less validated, less certain. That is the withdrawal from illusion. On the other side is something rarer than power, control over placement. This is the elite call to action. Though it will not sound like one, measure yourself coldly. Reduce your tells. Build options. Delay reactions. Let others reveal first. Stop asking what you deserve. Start calculating what the position allows. The sorting is already happening.